I used to think every family had a rhythm. Ours was a little offbeat. But I told myself that was normal, that every home had one room that felt colder, one person who stayed a step behind the laughter. I never realized that offbeat was just me, playing alone in a house that didn't want my song. When I was little, I thought my dad's silence was love in disguise. He wasn't loud like my mum, or playful like he was with my siblings. He just ... existed. His presence was supposed to mean something, right? But while my sister got piggyback rides and surprise ice creams, I got glances that lasted a heartbeat too long, measured, unsure, like I was an unfamiliar reflection in his mirror. I remember one night, Christmas Eve. I was 10. We were all sitting around the tree, and my siblings were opening early presents. My sister got a silver bracelet, my brothers matching toy cars. When I reached for my box, he stopped me. "That one's for later," he said flatly. Later never came. I used to wait for him to look at me the same way he looked at her, my sister, barely a year younger, but light years closer to him. He called her sweetheart. He called me kid. I kept telling myself it was fine. Love came in different shapes, right? Maybe mine was just quieter, except ... Love isn't supposed to skip you entirely. When Mum wasn't home, the distance grew sharper. He'd gather my siblings for movie night or bake cookies with them. And when I'd ask to join, he'd say, "Why don't you read upstairs? You like quiet things," like it was a compliment. Like isolation was my personality trait. By the time I turned 12, I'd perfected disappearing. I learned to eat dinner fast and retreat before anyone noticed I was there. I stopped asking him to come to my school recitals. The first few times, he said he was busy. The last time, he didn't even bother with an excuse. Still, I told myself families were complicated. Some dads showed love differently. Maybe I was hard to love. That's what Mum hinted, anyway. She'd pat my shoulder and say, "You two are just too similar. You both like to be right." But that wasn't true. I never fought him. How could I, when I didn't even have his attention long enough to start a fight? The older I got, the more I noticed the pattern. He went to every single one of my sister's plays, every soccer match my brothers had. When it came to me, my art shows, my recitals, not once. I remember once, when I was 13, I got second place in a regional art contest. I brought the certificate home, beaming. He looked up from the couch, remote in hand, and said, "Good job." That was it. But when my sister won a spelling bee, he took the whole family out to dinner. I cried that night. Not because of the dinner, but because I'd already known he wouldn't care and I was right. That hurt more than anything. When I turned 14, I started asking questions, quietly, to myself. Why was I the only one who didn't have baby pictures with him holding me? Why did our family photo albums start when my sister was born? Mum brushed it off. "We didn't take many photos back then," she said. "You know how busy we were." But she avoided my eyes when she said it. Still, I clung to her version of the truth. Because the alternative, the quiet suspicion whispering in my chest, felt too dangerous to think about then. One afternoon, the truth began to leak through the cracks. We were at a family barbecue at my aunt's house. The adults were drinking, laughing too loud, and I was helping in the kitchen. My aunt's husband, he's never been good with secrets, looked at me with a strange softness and said, "You're a strong girl, you know that. Strong, just like your real dad." My real dad. I froze. The words sank in, heavy and hot, and I remember the way the air seemed to thin out around me. I asked him what he meant, but before he could answer, Mum walked in, laughing, and he shut up. But his eyes said it all. That night, I stared at the ceiling for hours, my heart hammering against a truth I couldn't prove. I thought about every time Dad had ignored me, every time he'd smiled at my siblings and skipped me, every missing piece in my baby pictures. It all started to make sense. I didn't sleep. I couldn't, because if that man wasn't my father, then who was I in this house? The next morning, Mum found me in the kitchen, staring into my untouched cereal. She asked what was wrong. I almost told her. Almost, but something in her toned the tight. Careful sweetness told me she already knew what I was thinking, and she was scared of it, so I didn't say a word. For weeks, I carried that question around like a hidden bruise. Every time I looked at Dad, I saw it more clearly, the small flinches, the distance that had never been explained. He wasn't cold. He was protecting himself from caring. And I, apparently, was the reason. But no matter how hard I tried to ignore it, the pieces refused to stay buried. I started noticing the small arguments between Mum and him when they thought no one was listening. Snatches of sentences, sharp words about past mistakes, and once, my name. Always my name, by 16. The tension had become part of the air we breathed, and when the truth finally came out, it wasn't because they decided to tell me, it was because someone else did. The confession didn't come in a thunderstorm of drama, it slipped out quietly, like a truth that had been waiting too long. It was a Sunday, 2 months after that barbecue. I was sitting on the porch steps at my grandmother's house, scrolling through my phone, pretending not to hear the adults gossiping in the kitchen. My cousin, who'd always been more friend than family, came and sat beside me. She hesitated, then said, "You know, everyone feels bad about how he treats you." I frowned. "Who?" She gave me a look that said, "You know who." Then she sighed, eyes soft. "It's not your fault, you know. You didn't ask to be born." My stomach tightened. What's that supposed to mean? She looked horrified, realizing she'd said too much. "Forget it," she said quickly. But I grabbed her wrist. "No, tell me." There was a long pause. She whispered, "He's not your dad. Everyone knows. Mum said your mum was seeing 2 guys back then, him and your real dad. When she got pregnant, he said he wouldn't share her. So she chose him. But when the test said you weren't his, she promised him another baby. That's why your sister came right after you." Her words fell heavy, one after another, until I felt like I couldn't breathe. I wanted to scream, to deny it, but deep down, every small moment of neglect lined up in my head like a perfect equation. The missing love, the empty photo albums, the way he looked at me like I was borrowed. I asked for proof. She hesitated, then pulled out her phone, scrolling through photos of old family gatherings. There, in one of them, was my mom pregnant, glowing, standing next to 2 men. One was Dad. The other was a stranger. My cousin said quietly, "That's your real father." The man had the same hazel eyes as mine, same uneven smile. I didn't need a test. My gut already knew. That night, I sat on my bed, heart racing. My mind kept replaying moments that suddenly made sense. Why he never hugged me. Why my siblings' baby clothes were saved, but mine weren't. Why my college fund apparently didn't exist when I asked about it last year. It wasn't anger that hit me first, it was grief. Grief for a family that was never mine. the way I thought it was, the next day. I confronted them. Mum was folding laundry when I walked in. Dad Drake, I guess, was on the couch, pretending not to listen. I stood there, my hands shaking. I know he's not my dad, I said. My voice broke on the last word. The silence that followed was deafening. Mum froze. The shirt she was folding slipped from her hands. Drake looked at me once, then back at the TV, his jaw tightening. I could feel the air shifting, thick with something unspoken that had waited 16 years to come out. Mum turned toward me slowly. "Who told you that?" she asked, to calm. "That's all you have to say." I snapped. "Not that it's a lie. Not that I'm wrong." Her eyes flickered, her composure cracking. "Sweetheart, don't call me that." My voice shook. "Just tell me the truth." She sat down, staring at her lap. "Yes," she said finally, the word barely a whisper. "It's true." Drake didn't move. Didn't even blink. He just muttered, "Now that you know, you can stop calling me Dad." The sound that left me wasn't even a sob, it was something raw and wordless, torn from a place deeper than anger. Mum tried to reach for me. "Listen, it's complicated, complicated." I laughed bitterly. "You lied to me for 16 years. Her eyes filled with tears. "I did it to protect you." "No," I said. "You did it to protect yourself." Drake stood up then, his voice cold. "You wanted the truth. You got it. Don't expect anything else from me." He walked out of the room like it was nothing, like I was nothing. That night, I didn't eat. I didn't cry. I just sat in the dark, replaying everything. Every kindness I'd begged for. Every look that had been too distant to be paternal. Every time I told myself I was the problem, the next few days were a blur. Mum tried to act like nothing had changed, but she kept watching me, waiting for me to say who told me. It was all she cared about. "Was it your aunt? Your cousin? Who told you?" She asked one morning at breakfast. I ignored her. She asked again that afternoon. Then that evening. Then the next day her desperation grew into obsession. "You need to tell me," she said. "They had no right to tell you that. You're 16, not an adult. Maybe if you'd told me yourself," I shot back, "they wouldn't have needed to." She slapped the table. "Don't talk to me like that." Drake didn't say a word. He just looked pleased to see us fighting. A week later, she tried a new tactic: guilt. "You're hurting me, you know that. Whoever told you doesn't care about our family. They're trying to destroy it. You should have come to me." I stared at her. "You already destroyed it." For a second, she looked like she might hit me. Instead, she grounded me. Said I couldn't see my friends until I learned respect. Respect. From the woman who lied about my entire life. I didn't argue. I just went quiet, because silence had become my armor. She didn't know that I'd already looked into everything: birth records, timelines, even old photos she thought I didn't know about. The story checked out. She'd been seeing them both. When I was born, Drake made her promise to stop seeing my real dad. She did, but only because she found out I wasn't his. Drake got his real family after that. My sister, then my brothers. He got his bloodline, and I became the living reminder of her betrayal. Now that I knew, I saw it everywhere. The way he looked through me. The way Mum flinched when I said his name. The way family, friends would avoid eye contact when I was around. The worst part. The relief on Drake's face after my confession. It was like he'd been waiting for this, waiting for the moment he could finally stop pretending. I overheard him one night, talking to Mum. "She's leaving after 18, he said. "I want at least 1 year of peace before the boys move out." Peace, that's what he called it. Getting rid of me. I think that's when something inside me cracked open. Not in anger, but in clarity. I couldn't change the past. I couldn't make him love me. But I could decide what to do with the truth. Mum still doesn't know who told me. And I won't tell her. Not because I'm protecting the person who did, but because watching her unravel over the secret feels like justice. Every time she asks, I just say, "Does it matter?" Her face twists, and she mutters something about disrespect and consequences. But she doesn't understand. Silence is my revenge. Mum has been asking the same question for weeks now. Who told you? The words have lost all meaning. They sound like background noise, like the hum of a refrigerator constant, low, irritating. I've learned to tune her out. Every day starts the same way. She hovers by my door, voice strained but soft, pretending she wants to talk. What she really wants is a confession, a name, someone to blame that isn't herself. "Sweetheart, just tell me who said it," she pleads, like I owe her something. And every day, I look up from my sketchbook and say the same thing. Does it matter? It drives her insane. At first, she'd threaten to ground me, take my phone, cut my allowance. Then came the guilt trips. How I was breaking her heart, how I was turning against my family. But it's funny, she only says family when she's scared I'll leave it. The truth. That word hasn't meant the same since I learned it didn't include me. Drake avoids me completely now. We move around the house like ghosts who share a roof. If he's in the kitchen, I wait until he's done before going downstairs. If I'm watching TV, he'll grab the remote and turn it off without a word. Like the silence between us deserves protection. Sometimes I want to ask him why. Why pretend for 16 years? Why let a child believe she had a father when all he saw was a stranger's DNA? But I already know the answer. Because pretending was easier for him. For Mum, for everyone except me. And now, I'm the problem because I refuse to keep pretending. It's strange how power works. I used to think I had none in this house, that I was invisible, a mistake that everyone politely ignored. But now the truth sits with me, and they're the ones walking on eggshells. Mum tries to play nice sometimes. She makes my favorite breakfast, asks about school, acts like she's trying to fix things, but it's all just a setup for the same question. So, did you ever figure out which cousin said something? I smile, nope. Her eyes narrow, but she keeps smiling too. It's almost funny, this dance we do every morning, pretending civility while resentment simmers, just beneath the surface. What she doesn't realize is that her obsession with finding the traitor tells me everything about who she is. She doesn't want to make things right. She just wants control back. I've stopped needing her approval. I've stopped wanting his, but I haven't stopped watching. That's the thing about being the outsider. You learn to observe, quietly, patiently. And when you finally decide to act, nobody sees it coming. It started small. I began taking my important things, sketches, savings from part-time jobs, storing them in a box under my bed. Then, little by little, I built a plan. Drake said I'd be out of the house the day I turned 18. Fine, I'd make sure I didn't leave empty-handed. I applied for scholarships, without telling them. I reached out to my art teacher, who helped me build a portfolio for an art school out of state. She said she'd write me a recommendation. I saved every cent from babysitting and tutoring. I opened a small account Mom didn't know about. Every secret I kept felt like reclaiming something they still trust: choice, dignity. They wanted to bury me in silence. I turned it into armor. But silence isn't just protection, it's punishment. Mum started unraveling. The more I refused to talk, the more desperate she got. One night, I heard her crying to Drake in the living room. "She won't tell me," she said, voice trembling. "She's protecting someone. They had no right. That should have come from me." Drake's reply was cold. "You had 16 years to tell her." For once, I agreed with him. A week later, she tried to force me into talking. Took my phone, my laptop, even my sketchbook. Said I wasn't getting them back until I came clean. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just looked at her and said, "You can take everything, but you can't take back what I know." Her face turned pale. She called me ungrateful, a liar, a manipulative child. But it wasn't manipulation. It was survival. After that, she stopped trying to be nice. Meals went silent. Drake barely acknowledged me. My siblings avoided eye contact, confused and uncomfortable. They didn't understand, and I didn't blame them. To them, he was still Dad. To me, he was a man counting down the days until I was gone. Then came the twist I didn't see coming. One afternoon, I got home early from school. The house was quiet, too quiet. From down the hall, I heard voices behind the bedroom door. "She knows too much," Drake was saying. "She won't say who told her," Mum replied. "But if she tells anyone else, she won't. She's not stupid. But we can't keep living like this. What do you want me to do? Get her out early." I froze. My backpack slipped from my shoulder. They wanted me gone. Not at 18-now. I should have been scared. But all I felt was ... .com, because that was my moment of clarity. If they were so desperate to push me out, I didn't need to wait for permission. That night, I packed quietly. Clothes, sketchbooks, my small box of savings. I wrote a letter to my siblings, told them none of this was their fault, that I loved them, that they deserved better parents than the ones they had. I didn't leave a note for Mum or Drake. They'd already made it clear I wasn't their responsibility. I left before sunrise. The sky was grey, the world half awake. I walked to the bus station with everything I owned in one duffel bag. I wasn't running away. I was freeing myself. A few days later, I called my cousin, the one who told me the truth. She cried when she heard my voice. "I'm so sorry," she said. "Don't be," I told her. "You did me a favor." She helped me contact my biological father. I didn't expect anything from him. I just wanted to know where I came from. He sounded stunned, emotional, but kind. Said he'd always wondered what happened. We met a week later. He looked at me like I was someone worth knowing. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And that was more than I'd ever had before. Months have passed since then. I rent a small room near campus, work part-time, and draw every night. Sometimes I think about that house, the laughter that never included me, the warmth that skipped my side of the table. I used to dream of going back, standing in front of them, proving I made it without their help. But I don't need that anymore. Their world runs on denial and noise. Mine runs on truth and quiet. Mum still tries to reach me sometimes. Emails, voicemails, Messages that all sound the same. Please just tell me who told you. I never reply. She thinks my silence is defiance. But really, it's peace. It's power. It's the sound of someone who finally stopped asking to be loved by people who never wanted her. And if I've learned anything, it's this: sometimes the loudest revenge isn't shouting or fighting or exposing secrets. It's walking away, leaving them with the echo of what they did and the silence that follows. Because now, the silence doesn't belong to them, it belongs to me.